Usually in Craftovi Mantras, we make an episode about a city or even about a region, but that's not right. There is craft even in the village. So, friends, today will be the first episode about a craft village. Welcome to Kvasakh.
I'm Alexander. I'm making the village of Kvasakh a craft village. Well, not just me, all of us. Here you go, have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day to you too. It's nice like this.
So, let's take the cups. The cups will be tasting the water.
So is it good water, you say?
Our water is always good. There's no bad water. Let's try it.
That's true. It's just that Alexander says you can come here just for this water.
People come here for the water, so
is it just tasty or is it medicinal? I don't understand.
It's both tasty and medicinal. I take 4 bottles. I'll send them to Venetia by Nova Posta.
By Nova Posta to Venetia, easy.
Welcome to Kvasakh. Kvasakh begins with a mineral spring. This is Burkut, and people come here for it. That's because this water is kvass, mineral water. You'll try it now. And the village is called Kvasakh.
So it's not because kvass is made here, but because there's delicious kvass water here.
Kvass water. By the way, all the craft actually starts from nature. It's not a fight against nature or a replacement for nature. And craft is exactly what nature gives us and our ability to work with it. Try it.
There's no smell. It's just like mineral. Listen, it's just like mineral water. Without bubbles, but it's just like mineral.
It's a light carbonation, natural, pure. Many people come here specifically for this water. In the village as a whole, there are about 300 mineral springs. And it's known for this all over the country.
It's very unusual. Well, usually this medicinal water either smells, or tastes in such a way that when you drink it, you think it's going to be like a treatment. Here it's really tasty mineral water. Today my wife is with us and today I'll be giving her to taste nemussu.
How long does it live?
Considering that it has, as I said, a low pH, meaning there are no various contaminants here, it can easily stand there for 2 or 3 weeks and nothing will happen to it. Here, a person collects it and sends it to Venetia.
We collect it to take home to Kiev.
Well, you need to stand in line for that.
Let's begin.
Let's go. Next to the spring is our small farm. Here are our beauties, as you can see. They tell us a very simple story. They say, for us to give you milk, you need to feed us something too. That's why they've already come and want to eat. They're so clean. By the way, some of them are displaced. During the military actions, we took goats from near Mykolaiv, from near Kiev, because people couldn't keep them in those conditions. They've already adapted here.
In this kind of water, yes.
By the way, the tradition here is more to keep sheep than goats. Because goats are hard to gather into groups. That is, they fight and so on. If you gather sheep, say 10 from one owner, 5 from another. So they are calm, but these will fight until they determine who is the leader. Because here, in the herd, there is a senior goat. Nothing happens without her. She is the first to go for milking, she's the first to eat, she leads the way when they go out to graze. So accordingly, she is there.
They have hazing here. Well, yes, like a mother figure.
Because it's always like that. It's not the oldest male goat in the herd, but the female goat. Well, that's almost love already.
And here's the little one. Hold it, hold the little one. And how many goats do you have in total?
There are about 50 goats now. The little kids are currently grazing on the farm in the meadow. These are dairy goats. They are milked here twice a day, every day. And accordingly, we immediately take the fresh milk to make cheese. Goats, by the way, are not like sheep. They like to interact. They really want communication, and they love it when people play with them.
Tell me, please, what is all this beauty for? Just look at it, the pillows, everything is so neat. You could bring tourists here and open a restaurant.
Well, considering this is an open area, tourists naturally come here and socialize. We want them to really enjoy being here because if they have a good time, they'll give back and the atmosphere will be different. And that's why I don't like it when we look and see animals living in such difficult conditions. That's why we want them to feel great, so that every goat has the right to its own podium, to walk around, to lie down, and to show off. Because they're all models, since every day 1 million photos are taken with them here.
From the milk of the goats I talked to, Sasha and his team make artisanal cheeses. In addition, in Kvasakh, they make hutsul, pizza, and pasta with their own cool legend. They also produce artisanal ice cream from sheep and goat milk, pastries, the signature Kvasakh cake, various smoked meats, sausages, and fish. But the heart of Kvasi's craft is, of course, the Tsypa Brewery. I am Yura Yuriyovich. I make craft beer. Let's start brewing the beer. We have 4 ingredients: malt, hops, water, and yeast. First of all, to brew beer, we need to prepare food for the yeast. We take the malt, grind it in mills, mix it with water at the required temperature, and transfer it to the brewing kettle. I heard that you brew beer with real water, like Carpathian spring water. Is that true? You don't add anything? You don't purify it? You just take real water and brew with it? That's true. We are the craft hutsul brewery Tsypa. Craft means natural ingredients.
And one of the ingredients is not from a well, not from some kind of borehole.
It's a stream that comes out from under Mount Bliznytsia, and it goes into the water supply, and after 2.5 kilometers, it reaches us. We brew with this water. We don't interfere with the composition of the water. We don't change it.
Amazing. This is real natural water. Amazing.
And it worked. So now we understand how unique our water is, and it all starts there, right? Yes, here technology helps us. The program is written, and we set the recipe, confirm it, and start brewing the beer, but we still need to manage this process. From the pre-masher, the malt is mixed with water and delivered into the brewing kettle. This is what it looks like here. We are already cooking the mash for the yeast, barley malt. And I see yours is German. German? And why don't you use the Ukrainian one? No, we took one malt from our producer, Ukrainian hops, and we brew one type of beer with our ingredients. It's a light lager called Rakhivshchyna, and it's very popular among people because it's cheaper and tasty, and we brew it. But right now we brew 28 types of beer. Before these terrible events, we brewed 38 types, but then it became hard to get malt and ingredients. We cut back a bit, and now we brew 28 types of beer. But we brew different experiments, different styles of beer. These are golden ale, India Pale Ale, and various stouts. And to brew such a wide range, we need more specialty malts. We still produce few of such different malts.
This process is ongoing because wherever I go to brewers, everyone uses both hops and malt from abroad.
Ah, well, damn, why can't malt grow here? No, it already does, and we have very good barley. It turns out that some foreign producers take our barley to their malt houses and then sell it back to us as German malt. But both craft and brewing are already developing well here, and we have good ideas. People are experimenting, they understand what they're doing. We just need a little more time. We are in the brewing workshop. Here is the cooking process, and this is called beer wort. It takes 7 or 8 hours. Here I cooked the porridge, boiled it, brewed the beer wort, and then pumped it into the filter tank. Here I have the filtration process going on. So what gets cooked now, it gets filtered. Oh yeah, it's really like porridge here, indeed. I need the beer wort now, the mash. I don't need the grain anymore. I've already boiled it out. And I unload it, filter it, and pump the beer wort into the third, the hop boiling tank, where my beer wort boils for another 2 hours. And during the boiling, I add hops. This is the preparation process for any beer. No matter what, you always start with this.
So the wort boils, it's brewed, I add the hops, 2 hours, then I pump it into a tank called a whirlpool, where it spins for 20 minutes and all the small protein particles, everything unnecessary settles out.
And the beer wort goes through a cooler because it's about 100 degrees here. Through the cooling system, I already send it into the fermentation tanks. There I have, for example, 38 of them. And then I already, into different varieties, into different tanks, there's something else is added or something else. Yes, different ingredients, different yeasts, different fermentation temperatures, different times. Here it takes 7 or 8 hours, but there it takes 21 days, 22. I work with it, I play with it as I call it. I measure the pressure, I measure the density, I measure everything, we monitor it. We can ferment one variety at different temperatures, and you wouldn't recognize that it's the same variety. How precise do you have to be to achieve this result so that there are no deviations? In the last brewing kettle, the boiling takes place, the hop kettle. It actively boils for 2 hours, and during the boiling we add hops. The hot hopping of the wort takes place. The hops are also not Ukrainian, right? No, we have 3 types of Ukrainian hops and 20 types of non-Ukrainian imported ones. Hop growers, what are you doing? Come on, develop your business so we can say we have 20 Ukrainian varieties and just 3 that we import. Now the program will give me a signal that hops are needed. I'll open it, pour them in, close it, and it will take the hops inside when needed. Everything is automated. Automation is present here to the maximum, but you can't do without our hands. You need to pour in the malt, measure it, confirm it, connect the hoses and pump it. There's a lot of work, but here it's much more convenient and faster. We brew and ferment some types of beer in the main tanks, and then we also pour them into oak barrels. We get barrels from producers who use them for wine, cognac, or whiskey, and then we pour beer into them and keep it there for at least 3 months. The beer gets a completely different taste there. It softens very well and absorbs the taste of the wine or cognac that was in the product before. We just steam them a little so that it's of good quality and nothing unwanted gets in there. But then each barrel we get is exclusive 200, 230 liters of beer, which are then drunk. And then the second barrel is completely different, but also something new. And that's how we experimented. And now we're slowly making these kinds of beers. We bottle everything ourselves here. And as I understand it, it's all connected by pipes. So nobody collects or carries it anywhere. Everything is supplied automatically. There's also a lot of manual work here. From the fermentation tanks, we check the product usually after about 22 days. We look at it, check the indicators, and if everything is ripe and fermented and we have a good, tasty product, then we give permission to start bottling the beer. We take it straight from the fermentation tanks into beer kegs, fill them up and send them out. And then we also pour it into bottles, but for bottling we use a small craft machine. Every 6 bottles need to be placed. The machine releases air and under pressure fills the bottles with beer.
Where it is treated with a solution.
That's why we achieved that. Our beer can be stored for up to 3 months, 90 days. That's your job, to walk around and taste things, and I need to try the ice cream, try that one. You come in the evening, it's a good job. No, I'm already sober in the evening. By noon I'm already drunk, but by the evening I'm sober. The main work is before lunch. We need to release the beer that the Commission has approved based on our tasting results, give permission for bottling, and check if everything is fine. There are laboratory indicators, but it is mandatory that either the lab technician or sometimes the technologists and we taste for flavor, aroma, and assess the visual quality, check the color to see if it matches what we wanted, the aroma, the taste, and then we send it off. And can I try it with you? Let me treat you. You need to try it to see that it's not an easy job, the work of a brewer. I saw on TikTok that pouring beer without foam is wrong, that you actually need to make the foam, because otherwise it foams up in your stomach afterwards, and that's why your belly grows. No, we pour it without foam, because you're not pouring it yourself. And in bars too, if it foams up, you'll have to wait a long time. It has carbonation according to the style of the beer. And there are lagers where the carbonation is stronger, and they are tasty because of that carbonation. If it foams up and the gas escapes, there are beer styles like stout, and there are ales where you need less carbonation. You savor them, not like regular beer that you drink in big gulps. There's less carbonation, but that's something we control during the technological process. It smells really good.
I really like it. Yes, and now we need to write down whether we liked it or not.
On the 3rd of August, we drained 30 liters. Now I'll write down how much we drained.
Well, that's work, yes.
May you be healthy. Likewise, there's some bitterness.
This is called a Tsypa Brewery, and it's brewed in the style of a milkshake India Pale Ale. It has a certain bitterness, but it's also strangely sweet and bitter at the same time. Because of the milkshake style, people think it's something milky.
But in this style, it's allowed to add lactose.
So it emphasizes and gives it this creaminess and a bit of sweetness. For what? Because if it was dry, there is a beer that is dry, bitter, saturated with bitterness. Some people like it, some don't really like it. But here it's balanced, this sweetness with bitterness. And people really like this style of beer, but why lactose? Because beer yeast doesn't eat this lactose, and it leaves a sweetness. And if we made the wort sweeter, the yeast would still eat it, produce more alcohol, but the sweetness wouldn't remain. Here there are about 60 bitterness units, and now I want you to try this one, our Daba Lipa, which has 120 bitterness units. That's twice as much as here.
And this is our pride.
This is also our achievement. We won a gold medal at a festival in the Czech Republic, and people really liked it. At first, they laughed at us saying, how can you bring beer from Ukraine to the Czech Republic? But when we stood on stage and received the gold medal, even the Czechs were surprised. For perfect work. Very tasty. This is really very tasty, really very tasty, really very much so. If what we just drank is such a craft, interesting beer, then this is real beer with bitterness. Just needs some fish to go with it. We usually finish the beer evening only with this 100. Because you start with something light, like Pils, Helis, Pilsner, Tsypa Bila, Hop Lager, then something a bit different, Tsypa Pit Travoju on our herbs, thyme, mint, and then definitely Tsypa Sto, because that's when you really feel the flavors of our lineup. And somehow doctors even said that bitterness helps the body to secrete and digest what you drank and maybe overate during the evening.
And it'll be easier in the morning, right? Yes.
In the morning after Tsypa, we definitely recommend it. The body copes by morning, and you get up and go to work without any problems. Well, then back to work. That's why I really love the Carpathi, for the feeling of drive in nature. Awesome.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Tell me, where am I?
We are on the Mencho Meadow. 100 years ago, during the Austro-Hungarian times, and later during the Czech period, a mountain farm was built here in the Alpine style. So they brought in special cows and started making a mental cheese here. Wow. huge cheese wheels, about 100 kilograms each, because traditionally they only made buds here and then processed it into brinza. They didn't make cheeses like this before.
So they did a lot of work here, teaching people, bringing in animals, special breeds and so on.
And this cheese was then produced here, delivered down and aged there for half a year or a year. And then it went to Budapest, to Prague, where it was certified by one of the well-known cheese houses.
That was 100 years ago. By the way, we didn't know about this. There is such an outstanding gastroblogger, Miss Stefa, a researcher of Ukrainian cuisine.
And she, when she was visiting, she said, look, here's a photo. 100 years ago, they made this kind of cheese here on Menchul. After that conversation, the idea was born that we needed to restore this farm. Unfortunately, during Soviet times, they didn't make this kind of cheese here. They made butter there and some other dairy products. And during the years of Ukraine's independence, the farm almost disappeared. If during Soviet times or during the Austro-Hungarian period, there were 120 to 200 cows grazing here, then just a year ago, there were only 12.
That is, the meadow has almost died out.
Why? Because it's far, we traveled quite a distance. And for people to come here every week for milk or to hire special transportation, it's expensive, it's difficult. And this year we decided that we would start this revival. And there were ruins here, and now we are restoring this cheese factory. And this year we have already started accepting milk from people here and working on this very technology of emmental cheese production.
Tell me, please, why do you need it?
I think that if you live in this place, don't make it worse, but make it better.
You did one thing there in the kvass, then another, then a third, then a fifth.
And these are also kvass. These are also kvass. This meadow belongs to our village. We graze our cows here. People from our village graze their cows here. Our co-workers. When we came here, well, it just hurt our hearts to see that it was falling into ruins, even though it has such a glorious history. And there's a lot of bureaucracy around this about how to organize it properly. Then we gathered with the community and said, let's finally start doing something. We help, we finance. The guys from the village are working too. Then we'll hand it all over to the village council's balance.
So, on the village council's balance, it's not yours, but you're doing it for the town, is that right?
Yes, for our village. So we'll do it, hand it over, and it will be on the village council's balance.
And accordingly, if people think that we can accept milk here, make cheese, we will do it. If someone is found, someone else wants to do it. It's also important for us that this, first of all, develops animal husbandry in the village, and it's important that it's also tourism, because people will be interested in going up to Polonina Menchul, not to look at ruins, but to see the cheese factory and to try it.
Well, the road itself is interesting. It's really a tourist attraction, yes, to go there and see it.
On the Poloninas, all life used to take place in the village before. That is, they didn't go to a nightclub, they went to the Polonina, there was music here, there were gatherings here, there was communication here. And that's why I think the Poloninas should return to this state, because now people need it. When you come here, you no longer want to be in the city, you want to communicate with nature. It's great, you can really breathe here.
By the way, speaking of the city, you're from Donetsk, right? Yes. How long ago did you move? About 14 years ago. How did that happen? Why did you decide it would be Kvasy? Why did you decide to develop this? Why is it that now your whole life is Kvasy, 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 come to Kvasy, both for tourism and for the taste?
We started by rebuilding the sanatorium that is in the village. This sanatorium is also an important part for tourism in the village. But when people started coming to the sanatorium, it was already neglected there. When people started coming to the village, then they had a desire to do something. There was no street lighting in the village, and there was nowhere to go to a restaurant. So accordingly, there was a need. Well, let's make an interesting restaurant there. They made a restaurant, and then in the restaurant, it was necessary to have some local dishes, because when you go into a Carpathian restaurant and there's no Carpathian wine, but instead there's carbonara or dumplings or some solyanka, which, by the way, did happen here and still happens sometimes. So they decided that local gastronomy and local drinks were needed. The idea to make beer appeared. In beer, there is such a byproduct during production. It's called trubina, meaning when the malt has been brewed, what's left is this kind of mash. It's not interesting to dispose of it or come up with some specific methods. So they started a farm so that goats and sheep would begin to eat it. The goats and sheep start eating it and they produce milk one after another, one after another. So it's not like we just came up with this strategy 13 or 14 years ago.
We will raise Kvasakh.
The idea to raise Kvasakh was always there, but everything moves one step at a time. So now we've started working here, and a lot of interest has appeared around this. People are curious, they're making suggestions, and now other Poloninas are coming and saying, let's do the same thing with us.
Because we also want it to be convenient for the cows and for the people. They bring us the milk here, they get their money down below. So they've taken the burden off themselves of having to travel.
So we saw that this is interesting for people, and it's interesting for us too, because when tourists come, one way or another, they become guests at our restaurants, pizzerias, and cheese dairies. When everyone, not just us, but also other participants in the village's tourism movement start doing interesting things, there will be more guests, and that means the village will develop. Let's go see what the guys are making there. Just 3 months ago, there were ruins here. Everything was destroyed, it was a dump. People threw garbage here, but we took all that trash away and started rebuilding.
Oh, what a view. These are the Carpathians, friends. So when are you going to launch here?
Well, look, construction is still ongoing, but we've already started accepting milk from people and working on the recipe, because cheese production, especially something as complex as Emmental, is very different from what was traditionally made here, like brinza. And it's different from the technology we can use when making it down there in the cheese factory, where there's electricity and the ability to control temperatures.
There's no electricity.
Yes, there's no electricity. And gas is needed so that, if necessary, because Emmental requires us to raise the temperature several times to activate certain enzymes that are in the milk.
But also here we work with unpasteurized milk, fresh milk that has just been milked, and we start working with it right away.
Well, let's see how it happens here. Let's go. This is different from what we saw in the meadow. First of all, it's made of stone. It was historically built from stone. You can see these kinds of walls. Ah, this is a historical building. It was simply destroyed. We took this stone and just put it back the way it used to be 100 years ago. It does a great job of keeping it cool here during the day, and this has a positive effect on how the cheese develops and ferments.
Listen, tell me please, when did you start getting into cheese? When you say cheese, do you think about cheese, making it your own?
I'm generally interested in working with natural products, creating natural products. By the way, it's not that simple, because if we take modern additives and all sorts of preparations, it's pretty easy to do. You just add this, that, and you seem to get some kind of product. But we start from the point. Why do we call ourselves a craft producer if we do things according to the rules of a big cheese factory or a big brewery? That is, with a natural product, with natural milk, which we don't stabilize in any way, we don't normalize it, we don't add any artificial calcium or anything like that. With natural milk, which changes depending on the season, on the weather, it changes. So it's both interesting and difficult to work with it, but what inspires us is that we give our guests a natural product, natural cheese. I'm fascinated that there's a story in this, that now we're doing things that when we were once part of Europe, this territory was part of Europe, these European traditions were here. And now, in this difficult time when the country is at war, when we are becoming part of Europe again, yes? Our civilizational path leads there, and we are returning again. For me, it is very symbolic that we are bringing back the European tradition of cheese making here, which existed 100 years ago. We made a big wheel, shaped it, put it under the press, and it stays there for a day or a day and a half being pressed. You see, different weights are added. Then we put this cheese here into the brine. This is a 20% brine, spring water plus salt. And it gets turned over here and stays, you see such a big one, it stays here for about a day and a half. It gets salted so that it becomes so tasty. Do you see this one? Try it, hold it.
Wow, nice one.
Do you see? And just imagine, back then now we're training, but back then they made them 3 times bigger.
And after this, we take this cheese and put it here on the shelf. Oh,
come on, help, see, you're almost a cheesemaker already.
I understand, these small ones stand there.
We put it here, we constantly turn it so that it forms correctly. And how long does it need to stand? Look, here it will spend about a week. You see, now the guys say that yesterday a car came and they took these cheeses down there for aging. They will spend almost a year there.
These processes can't be sped up. That's what makes our product special, or that's our desire.
These are natural processes that big producers want to speed up, because the more and the faster they can sell. And the acceleration happens either by changing technologies or by using some chemical additives and so on. You can't fool nature, so if we want to get Parmesan, you won't get it in less than 18 months.
So it won't become that tasty no matter what you do?
So time, patience, this slow cheese, slow life, everything in Kvasakh goes slowly. We can cut it now.
No, don't.
This is called Primo Sale. We had Marco Cervetti as our guest here, the greatest Primo Sale.
How will it be?
Lightly salted cheese, young. Famous, yes, the cook. And we also watched here before.
Well, on one hand, everyone wants it, but on the other hand, like you said, it's a holiday. Well, if we cut off a piece now, it still has a long life ahead.
And he says no. In Italy, there's this concept when the cheese has just been salted, prima sale, the first salt.
So usually they don't eat it like that at all. It needs to be aged, but you can cut it, and that's actually a separate tradition.
So for you, we're going to cut this head right now and make prima sale.
Just like that, right from the source.
Ta. Oh, you see?
Wow.
See, it's just like a real salé.
Ah, gorgeous, ripe.
Try it primo sale. On this side, it'll be saltier because we just took it straight out of the vat. And inside, it'll be almost, try it.
If I taste it.
Natural.
Beaujolais?
Beaujolais, this might offend people. Beaujolais, it's quite a simple wine.
Well, young wine, yes. Oh, a tasting. I'm right on time as always. Look, they've cut us just such a head.
They cut the head. I didn't want to, but he said no.
So I say, go ahead and cut it. What's the deal? We can kill it.
No, we shouldn't. We came here. We want to try.
Very, very delicious cheese.
Cool, everyone will be happy that we'll now have prosciutto in our store.
Thanks to me.
First of all, you need to agree that in a year you will come for a tasting. Well, at least to see how everything was built here. We hope that everyone will have the strength to do it. And the tasting already. You know, we will be tasting right in the hall and already aged cheese. And we will be celebrating victory. That was earlier.
We will be celebrating victory all next year.
Oh, that's cool. By the way, how do you like the view?
It's beautiful.
Awesome. Oh, look, we're surrounded by bushes, and this is the black gold of the Carpathians. So we ate brinza, that's the white gold.
Yes, friends, we were at a mountain pasture stable and talked a lot about Carpathian sheep brinza and its special qualities. We talked so much that, in our opinion, this topic deserves a separate episode. So stay tuned for a video about the white gold of the Carpathians on the channel. Well, we're getting back to the black one.
Do you know what a Yafina is or not? I know what an Afina is.
Oh, don't say that. They call it Afina beyond the pass. The Hutzels call it Yafina. Here it's Yafina. They're almost different berries.
But it tastes the same. Yes.
The same, but tastier, right?
Because it's from the bush.
There's just a bunch here. We happen to come right in season. In season, it's tasty. By the way, we make cider from blueberries. And we'll make beer too. With these delicious berries. They are just ripe now. We need to collect about 200 liters, I think, 20 or 30 kilograms.
It's so small. It's right in the middle of these bushes. So to collect 20 or 30 kilograms of these tiny little berries, that's...
Look, kids walk around. They pick bilberries here. On average, a child collects 30 kilograms a day.
30 kilograms a day?
You're not a child. You're an adult, a serious person. So you organize things here?
I came to the meeting. 30 kilograms per day. Actually, we need to explain what an Yafina is. Yafina. Sorry, okay. Yafina.
Because when I was born in Zaporizhia, we didn't have that, and it's called in Russian.
Chornitsia. But chornitsia that is cultivated industrially is one thing, and this is the mountain kind. Yafina, it has different components in terms of benefits and microelements. Here, when we talk, herbicides are not used. This has never happened here. You see, there are whole plantations here, like tea plantations of these yafins. They grow here in ideal conditions for themselves. And this is almost a nature reserve. We're not actually on the territory of a reserve because we wouldn't be allowed to drive here with you. This is the territory of a rural community, a meadow, one of the meadows.
And here for ages it's been bilberry, and after it soon lingonberry will start growing nearby.
And we use both of them in our local drinks, cider and beer.
How is it made, beer with bilberries? Well, it's kind of different, but it can have an interesting taste.
We're a craft brewery, and a craft brewery is a brewery that's constantly searching for new beer flavors. Where are you going to look for flavors? Right where you live. So we look for what's around. There are berries, there are fir trees, there are herbs, there is gentian. By the way, they used to make beer with gentian, meaning instead of water they used this way and made beer from it. Very interesting. By the way, this is a story we didn't come up with. There is a traditional style that was born in Berlin. It's called Berliner. It's a wheat kind of sour beer. And to make it more interesting, they always traditionally added some berry syrups to it or fermented it with berries. So if you want to make something new, look around. Everything has already been done. But the uniqueness of this is that it's a terroir thing. That is, we didn't just take some frozen berries from somewhere. We took fresh, high-quality ones. And this beer, you might like it or you might not, but you can only try it here. Our idea is that you come from the city, whether it's big or small, and you're surrounded by industrial goods everywhere. You came here, you want to try something local, authentic, real. Children come and try our yogurt, which we make naturally. They are not familiar with this taste. They are used to store-bought yogurt, which has a lot of sugar, starch, and other things in it. Thickener, flavor enhancer, and so on.
It's like a tomato when you take it from your grandma's garden.
This large industrial format in supermarkets, among others, push producers into a situation where products need to have 100-year shelf life and so on. But if we're talking about local food, then apples should be picked not in winter, but when they are ripe.
And this beer, will it also be seasonal? Is it ringing now? Will it ring now?
Yes, we'll make it and sell it for almost a year.
Listen, but these collectors, they collect somehow.
Yes, there are these special scrapers, yes, with a little tray. They take it like this, comb through these bushes, and the berry, if it's ripe, it stays in this scraper. And they, accordingly, either pour it out there or dump it somewhere. But that's as craft as it gets. You know, I even eat half of them myself. But after 3 hours, you'll get used to it. You'll stop eating half, you'll only eat 30%. And the work will go on.
Listen, I have a tricky question for you. I just know about Afini Yafini. My parents moved to Carpathia, and my mom, she has poor eyesight, she had glasses. She started eating these, she really liked these Yafini. And at the same time, she ordered herself new glasses. When the glasses were made, she said, I can't see in them, they're uncomfortable for me now. Her eyesight improved a lot.
Yes, because that's exactly what these berries are for. They are the basis for many medicinal products used to treat vision problems. So here's the question, does beer improve eyesight? So, in what quantity?
No, well, does it retain any beneficial properties, or is it just the taste?
Well, considering that we also have a medical business, we don't have the right to say, do you have a medical business? Well, a sanatorium. Yeah, I understand. A sanatorium, so we treat people, it's evidence-based medicine. So, as someone involved in medicine, I can't say that it's therapeutic because that's not officially established, but it definitely doesn't do any harm.
No, I know from my own family it's really therapeutic. There's a strong effect in this.
And are you talking about beer or about Yafina? About Yafina. Yafina, definitely. And I'm talking about beer, yes.
And how are we going to brew the beer?
Tomorrow we'll gather more. Because there won't even be a sip from this. Craft is craft. But we have craft journeys. There have to be journeys. So let's travel.
I'm Yuri. I conduct authors tours.
So what's interesting here anyway? Is there any point for a tourist to come here?
Well, of course. Since Rakhivshchyna, as I already said, is the highest, most picturesque, and most colorful region of Ukraine, which is the heart of Hutzhelshchina, of course, there are hundreds of reasons why it's worth coming here. And what to see here?
Oh, a stream. This is awesome.
This stream is Malibansky, and over here on the right is Veliki Bansky. And this is connected to the legend, because it was right here that there was a lot of gold. And the priest, having learned that there was a lot of gold here, forced the local shepherds and people to collect the gold.
And by the way, it was recently discovered that between the village of Kosivska Polyana here on the mountain, there are large deposits of gold.
So is it possible to pan for gold here?
Well, you can definitely look for it. You can find stones, pebbles with traces of gold. An active gold mine is not far from us.
So you need to look for pebbles with veins?
You need to have a special pan and sift. But you might get lucky and the water has already washed it out, so you can see it without all that.
You need to be careful and keep a lookout.
You can see golden sand, and by the way, there are real possibilities.
So it's not a legend, there's actually gold here.
There really is gold. And according to legend, they even found golden stones here.
Just by scooping it up. Here, look. Do you see this thing? It's not a fact that this is gold, but it's something like that. Here, look at my hand. See, so that's how it collects. It's not like you'll find a whole chunk, but you keep washing, and these little grains gather into something bigger. See? I see. Well, these really are little pieces of gold. Looks like it.
Take all of this straight into your pocket.
Come on.
Wow.
Here they are!
Mammoth trees, sequoia dendrons, giant sequoias, Californians, whatever you call them.
And here they are, growing in our Rakhiv region. They are now over 100 years old. They were planted here in the year 1920.
In the place of a clear-cut area, many species of trees were sown.
And one of them was exactly these unique trees, which are considered the longest living, some of the largest trees in the world.
And the largest, right?
Yes.
Are those the ones they have in California, those giant ones?
Yes, that's them, yes.
Wow.
These are also called Californian pines. Here we have 4 young specimens. These are very young. Well, what is 100 years really? Yes, 100 years is almost nothing.
The height ranges from 45 to 55, according to old measurements up to 60, I think, meters.
In width, the largest one is about 30 meters in diameter. This one here, right? Yes, it's the biggest one of them. And here they are. On one side, they're well known. On the other, less known, but still worth attention. It attracts a lot of interest among various tourists who come here.
To feel small next to such a huge tree and to realize how majestic nature is.
Around these trees, there are also spruces and larches here. The larch is the only coniferous tree that sheds its needles for the winter.
And how long can they actually live?
Several thousand years.
Several thousand years. Majestic and very pleasant to the touch. They're just so furry. Such real tranquility to come to sit in the alpine meadow to observe, and the silence, the true Carpathian silence. But how did they end up here at all? This isn't even a Carpathian tree.
Yes, this used to be a place of total deforestation. And in 1920, they planted different types of trees here together, and among them were these sequoias, and they took root here, 4 of them.
And so 4 of them have survived here to this day.
And why aren't there more? Somehow these 4 have survived, but there aren't any more anywhere.
They didn't take root. That's how many of them sprouted here.
Who planted them? What country was it back then?
They were planted here during Czechoslovakia.
And did you ever try to take a sapling, plant something so that we would have a forest?
I think if it worked here, the Carpathians would have been planted with this sequoia long ago.
So this is really a unique place?
For our region, this is a unique tree because in Rakhivshchyna it has only grown here.
And what else is unique in Rakhivshchyna?
Well, let's start with the fact that we have the highest mountain in Ukraine here in Rakhivshchyna.
The highest altitude building in Ukraine, the observatory, is also located in Rakhivshchyna, on the border of Zakarpattia and Frankivsk regions.
The highest altitude cave in Ukraine, on Mount Petros, is located in Rakhivshchyna.
Only in Rakhivshchyna grows the rare flower, the alpine edelweiss, which is depicted on my hat, on the rocks of Bliznytsia, on the Svidovets Ridge at Lake Hrashchaska, and on the rocks of Nynyaska in the Marmarosi.
It is in Rakhivshchyna that the largest waterfall in the Carpathians is located. This is the Yelinsky waterfall in the Marmarosi, a single cascade waterfall.
It is in Rakhivshchyna that real Hutzul sheep brinza with a geographical indication is produced.
Well, there are still a lot of things that can be called the very best that we have.
So you have to come and see for yourself.
Come explore, because even a lifetime wouldn't be enough to discover how many beautiful things we have here.
And only in Rakhivshchyna are there sequoias, right? Yes.
An informational insert about the seedlings and how sequoias are propagated. In California, over the past century, scientists have observed that new sequoias are not growing. There are old ones, but no new ones, and they began to study why. I don't remember how it was discovered, but for a sequoia to produce offspring, forest fires are needed. In recent years, they started putting out the fires, because there are firefighters, and it's a nature reserve around there, so there are no fires, and the sequoia doesn't grow. And everything burns out there, and because of the heat, its seeds hatch and get planted.
The more the land burns out, the more favorable the conditions are for them. Burnt land is a huge advantage. That's why wherever it burns, that's where they grow.
Well, my friends, goodbye. See you in 100, 200 years. I'll come back and see how you all are here. Just don't run away anywhere. Stay here. And that's final. Goodbye, goodbye. By the way, do you know that the geographical center of Europe is located here near Rakhiv? Let's go, I'll show you. Here it is. So we're right in the center. And what's this? Where did we come?
We're now at the highest swinging bridge on the Tsypa River, which is formed here above the town of Rakhiv by the confluence of the White and Black Tsypa.
In general, I think these swinging bridges are kind of a hallmark of the Carpathians.
Yes, all of the Carpathians, and not just Hutzulshchyna, but also Borkivshchyna, Rakhivshchyna, Verkhovinshchyna, and Kosivshchyna. All of them have these kinds of bridges.
How many are there here? 50 meters, 20?
Up to 20 meters, between 15 and 20.
And it doesn't seem like much, but if you look down, it's quite a height.
But friends, these are quite dangerous bridges, and there are certain rules of conduct on them. You have to be careful. The planks can rot and collapse, so watch where you step. Walk along the stiffening ribs, as they say. And always keep in mind that this timber can rot. And be careful. I have one question. When is the best time to visit Rakhiv?
Starting from spring until autumn, and in winter there are winter sports activities. But I want to say that one of the main highlights of Rakhivshchyna is our craft festivals, which will resume immediately after victory with the arrival of peace.
This includes, starting with the largest gastronomic festival in Western Ukraine, the Brynsa Festival, which used to take place in the city of Rakhiv every autumn.
I already know that it's better to say Brynsa.
Brynsa Festival.
The last Brynsa festival was attended by more than 50,000 people.
Also, the Burlabaski Banush festival, dedicated to the dish Banush, takes place in the neighboring village of Kostelivka.
The Bachkivsky Holubtsi Festival. At the last festival, 50 different types of holubtsi were prepared. The Dovashova Yushka Festival in spring. The dish presented is such a dovbush yushka, which was prepared from many types of meat.
These are the kinds of festivals where people gather and everyone boasts about their own Brynsa cheese. It's a chance to meet friends, eat, enjoy yourself, and have fun.
The main goal of these festivals is to popularize, revive, and preserve our traditions. As a rule, why is it mostly in the fall? It's the period when the shepherds would come down from the highlands, take their sheep back, there's cheese, there are goods, and this all happens before Pokrova. That's how these gatherings were held. People would come together.
You have a real buzz going on here at the festival.
Yeah, when it comes to festivals, this is top notch.
Come here, come here. So just invite them to Rakhiv, let them come, and you listen.
Dear friends, I invite everyone to the highest, most picturesque, and most colorful district of Ukraine, Rakhivshchyna.
So we came here specifically to ask you why the chick.
Listen, right now we are almost in a sacred place for our brewery, for our brand. Yes, it's so clean, beautiful. And here are fermenters that look like eggs. This is also a special feature of the beer we started brewing. Now we brew sour varieties here. But that's where the name Tsypa came from. What is born from an egg?
So you bought this equipment and after that, well, why not?
It was a slightly different kind of magic. We were looking for which equipment to choose, and at the same time the designers were working on the design of the brewery hall. And literally on the same day, we received an offer for these tanks and an offer for the hall design, which also featured similar shapes. And it seemed to me that everything matched up, so we decided that we would use these very fermenters.
They are both a highlight, and overall fermentation here happens in a special way.
Well, we didn't think too long about the name. Someone said it's a silly name for a brewery, Tsypa. Some people in the village told me, Alexander Vasilovich, that we could have named the brewery something more normal because it's embarrassing to tell friends that we went to the Tsypa Brewery. Now it's different. Now many people are proud that we have such a brewery in our village. But this is a sacred place. It's not a museum, it's a working facility. We brew new experiments here every week because the kettle is small, only 200 liters.
So all these experiments, do they happen right here?
Yes, mostly they happen here. And here is also the sour beer line. We have sour beer, that's a whole line. Here we make beer with sauerkraut, pickled cucumbers, and garlic.
With pickled cucumbers?
Yes, this is beer that you should drink in the morning. When? In the morning on Saturday, because if there's a good dinner on Friday, then in the morning. On Saturday, you take and open this little bottle of beer. It's like cucumber brine. It has probiotics. It's light, a bit sour, not much alcohol, and it's very healthy and refreshing in the morning. And you can start with cucumbers and then go on. And you remember that you need to finish the day
with a special beer.
It's just a bedside beer that you need to drink and fall asleep right after the last sip. Let's go to our brewers. They're nearby because the brewery is small. We've already arrived. But we've already arrived. It's a small one. Basically, it's made like a home brewery, although 200 liters is a bit much for a family. But for the restaurant, the idea was that we would brew a small amount of beer here and sell it only at the bar in the restaurant. Everything always starts with the fact that there is water and there is malt. I'm handing over to our guest the symbol of Hutzel Brewing, Kulishir. Without him, it would be difficult to organize, almost impossible. This is Yuri Yuryovich, who came up with this concept. Yuri Yuryovich, go ahead, ask. Take charge, what should we do?
To drink beer, you have to brew it. Let's start brewing. We pour in the malt, and we'll brew the crushed ground malt.
You can start stirring a little now.
I can start stirring a little now, right? I can always stir. And do I need to pour all of this in?
The main ingredient, the ones we picked yesterday.
But we picked more.
Are you sure? Maybe, Kolya, you took a little for yourself? Pour it out? Yes, let's pour it out nicely. In a craft brewery, the main thing is that it looks nice. Look, it's already done. Cool. Oh, we're adding lingonberry for the first time. Then we'll add it again during fermentation, at the beginning of fermentation, and again at the end, so there will be a lot of lingonberry flavor. During mashing, we'll get a lot of color, and now this apple has tartness. Oh, lingonberry. Yuri Yuriovich, by the way, honestly admits that he loves this brewery more than the new one.
Why? This is home. While we were learning, we did everything down to the minute. Waited, washed, and we didn't really know how to control the processes yet. I cooked from 8 in the morning to 8 in the morning, 24 hours.
So he said it in a friendly way.
But it was hard. I spent most of my time here for half a year, and now we've been living here for almost a year. We had to try. Wandering a new month, it turns out completely different. The second month, we saw how it went. And that's how it is. Well, that's how Tsypa was born here.
I had the same one at home for 20 liters. Exactly the same, the whole control system. With my daughter there, well, we brewed beer. Just like you and I now, we poured in the malt, brewed everything nicely, and bottled it. But brewing is 10% creativity and 90% washing, cleaning, tidying up, and keeping an eye on things. So our mom said, guys, girls, find a place where you can do this more professionally.
So, in order to get into brewing, you don't need big investments. So you can make your own craft beer just for yourself, and it will be tasty and cool.
Yes, of course. I think the point is that you need to take a certain step away from home brewing because there are still food safety requirements, sanitary requirements, and so on. But this is a small brewery that is still operating, and it's a great example of how you can make interesting beer in a small space with minimal investment. The main thing in craft production is first to know and love your product, and second to know where you will be, to whom you will sell, and in what volume. For example, if we talk about purely rural brewery tourism, this is enough. That is, this brewery can produce in a month and...
Oh, it's leaking. Ah, is it supposed to be like this?
The magic of mashing has begun. The pumps circulate water through all the malt, constantly circulating and washing out all the substances we need, activating the necessary enzymes. This is when the transformation of starches into sugars happens, which will later be consumed by the yeast. Well, here it looks really clear, and as Yura Juric likes to say, homemade.
Why all these experiments? Why keep searching for a new taste all the time?
Because we're interested in it. We're really curious to experiment. It's part of the whole idea of craft brewing and, in general, of being a craft producer. On the other hand, the uniqueness of our brewery is that we are a brewery as a tourist location. And accordingly, when people come to us, they also want to try something interesting, something seasonal, something unusual, something interesting. So accordingly, they also push us towards this. Well, in general, if we talk about craft beer, about the wave of craft brewing in Ukraine, there are bars that keep almost their entire assortment focused on new arrivals. People come in, they look, they read something new, something new. So that's the concept, and for us, it's nice that everything is not forced. That is, we don't force ourselves to do it. We think it's cool, our guests think it's cool.
The process has started.
The process has started, yes. Now there will be about 3.5 mashings, right? How many pauses do we have here now?
Well, 3.
About 3 hours. Then there will be boiling, then there will be fermentation, and see you in a month.
And only in a month there will be beer.